Hey everybody, welcome to Cultural Disruption.
Welcome everybody. Look, watch. Look at these. Isn't that fun?
Did you look at them? What do you call these?
Dongles.
Dongles.
Dinglies? Someone call HR.
Something.
Anywho.
We're excited to talk to you guys
We're
today
very excited, yeah.
about phone interviews.
Phone interviews.
We're going to do the next couple of vlogs dedicated to recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Recruiting is super important and I think ripe for disruption.
It is. It is. And here's the issue, right? The thing that you have to remember is that there's nothing wrong. I call it a teaching pool. Okay. And here's why I call it the teaching pool. There's this story for another day. But when I'm trying to recruit people, most of the time what happens is I panic. Oh my gosh, we've got to get these positions filled, right?
Yeah.
The good thing about recruiting is that you have the ability to actually recruit at all times.
Yeah.
And so I've had jobs in the past where when I would go somewhere, if I saw someone that I thought was awesome, that I thought would be a great job or a great position, in my company, then I would actually say, hey, look, you're doing great here. I'd love to see you work with my company.
You know what? Proactive recruiting is a lost art form.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's lost or if it's never been around.
I think people get scared of it.
Yeah.
I think that they're always, they've already got a job. I don't need to talk to them.
So one of the things we like to advise the companies we work with is immediately find out what are some of the potential roles you could be filling one day. That might not mean they're available today, but they could be in the future. And those positions, start looking for candidates today. There's no problem in bringing good talent in and saying, hey, here's what we're looking for in this role. We don't have a vacancy, and you can court with them. Now, there's a company that I loved and wanted to work for, and we courted for 6 years before they made me a job offer.
It's a long time.
It's a long time, but you can do that. And when they called me, I said yes.
Yeah.
Immediately, because I knew everything about the company and I wanted to be part of it, and the rest was history.
Well, and I think about, if one of the things you're focused on is your budget, right? Think about how much less expensive that is because you constantly have your pool full of people to hire. And so you're not having to be like I said, oh crap, in the moment, I got to try to fill this position and waste all that time. You've already got someone who's ready to go.
So there's a big cost for turnover, and then there's also a big expense for time to hire. Now, one of our clients, we were able to lower their time to hire from 54 days because you post a position. You wait for resumes to come in, you do interviews, you then give a job offer, you do background check, they give 2-week notice, and took 54 days for somebody to start. We were able to lower that to 14 by introducing proactive recruiting, and it saved over $12,000 per new hire in lowering that time to hire.
Well, and I think the thing is too, I think people get concerned about, okay, I've got to spend all this time setting up these interviews and going and doing. Really, you can do it as simple as a phone interview.
Totally.
Really easy to do.
Okay, so what are some of the questions people want to know during phone interviews?
I think one of the first ones that is on everybody's mind is sometimes pay.
Yeah.
I want to know how much I'm going to get paid. I want to know what the interview process is.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you different, right? Like, why should I want to hire for you? Why should I want to work for you?
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of different things. And we can answer those questions really easily, really quickly.
On a phone interview. Now, we'll talk a little bit more detail about pay and how to negotiate all of that, but you could at least say what your compensation structure is, or how you view it, or when you're going to discuss it in the interview. And we talk about the difference between your offer versus your total compensation package. And outlining those two things is really interesting, because if you're paying $14 an hour to someone, they're like, 14. But then when you show them all the benefits and the holidays and the time off that they're going to get, add all of that up based off of their hourly amount, and then they're like, oh, we're actually going to give you $48,000 a year. They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But that's what the company's paying to get you there. So just the way you discuss that in the phone interview can change some of their perspective.
Yeah, it helps me to know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
If I were to be hired for that company.
Totally. Okay, so you want to know what to expect beforehand, right? That's what the candidate's looking for. So what are other things candidates want to know?
Well, that's a great question.
I think they want to know what questions you're going to ask.
I think if I can be prepared
Yeah.
for that interview, right? And I think sometimes I feel like that might be almost like cheating. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong with people coming prepared with, to know what we're going to ask.
I think recruiters are afraid to say, here's the questions we're going to ask you in the next step of the interview process. You should start preparing for it. But what's the harm in that?
There's not harm. And I think overall, it makes a more effective interview because they know what to expect coming into it. They're prepared.
And there's more dialogue, and they have thought through how they are positioned for the job.
And I think at that same time, you think about, okay, they've already asked me, what their pay is going to be, or I've already told them what the interview process is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I can get all of that out of the way and focus more on the things that matter most during that interview, which is getting to know that candidate, getting to know what their strengths are, where they fit, and all that good stuff.
Okay, so how do you look past a resume and focus on the person in a phone interview? How do you do that?
Well, I think there's more than one way to do a phone interview, right? Because one of the things that we've actually seen done before is in the phone interview process, we can talk to them a little bit about, hey, this is who our company is, this is what to expect. And one of the things we've actually seen done, and we've done ourselves, is actually have done a phone or a video interview. We send them a link and we say, hey, watch this video, and it'll answer all the questions that you might have before the interview comes.
Because people talk about the candidate experience. The candidate experience is really just a way of selling the company to the candidate. And when you do that, you kind of regurgitating the same information.
It's like you're following a script.
You're following a script and you're saying it over and over. So why not make a professional video that explains that script, but is more engaging for the candidate to watch, and it answers the majority of their questions.
Something a little bit more exciting to follow.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's a huge thing, is doing this video phone interview of selling them on it. Now, candidates don't want to watch something for an hour before they've even talked to anybody.
It's like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Send them a 10-minute thing. Say this will prep you for the interview. Go ahead and check it out.
Yeah. Well, again, that make sure that I'm saving that precious time for what matters most, right? Yeah. And I can get those things out of the way. This also gives me an opportunity to kind of coach them on the next steps, right? Because they're going to have questions. Okay, what now?
Yeah.
Those video interviews, if you will, give me the ability to say, okay, here's what we're going to do from this point on.
Yeah.
Right. So I can lay that all out. So again, it gets past that stuff that's just the filler that I need to get through.
Okay. I also like providing feedback to the candidate at the end of a phone interview. Now, this is another thing people are afraid of. They're afraid to give that because they could use it in the future to say, but you told me I was really good at this. But why not, say, in the future, here's what I think about you. Here's what made you stand out against other candidates, and here's where you didn't show exactly what we were looking for. Yeah. That transparency, I think, speaks volumes to the candidate, and knowing, this is a company who's honest up front and will let me know how I'm doing if I actually get the opportunity to work here. And it also answers the burning question of, why didn't I get the interview? Why didn't I pass the phone interview? Well, you didn't pass it because we were specifically looking for somebody with this skill set. And when you say that, they might jump in and say, well, I do have that. I'm sorry I didn't cover it. Here it is. Or they may say, oh, okay, yeah, I don't. And I get that that's what you need.
I thought one of the most interesting things that I've ever experienced is when I used to work for a restaurant company, we would interview teenagers. And a lot of times at the end of those interviews, they would say, what else can I do? What could I have done better? They actually ask for feedback. And maybe that's, and I think that's the thing is there's always that burning question after the interview, okay, what did I do? Mm-hmm. Did I say things right? What did I cover? Right? Where did I fail? Where did I succeed? We all have that question. I think some of us are just too darn afraid to ask for it. I don't want my heart broken.
Nobody does. I don't want your heart broken. So here's another pet peeve of my dongle. Mine, as it relates to hiring managers and recruiting managers, is that they follow the same script and they always ask the same questions to each candidate. Now, I get you need a baseline, but this is cultural disruption, and we want to disrupt your culture. So why not talk to them about who they are and getting past the resume and finding out their religious beliefs and their family and what things matter to them most? Because most Americans put their family as a priority. They work for their family, not the other way around. And their religion is the second most important thing to them. So, why not find out experiences that they have had in the past? Now, we're both returned missionaries, and for 2 years we didn't have a job on our resume, but we had experiences that helped prepare us to deal with people. And why not talk about those experiences to fill that hole in our resume? I think it's okay to get past the resume and focus more on the person and what makes them who they are.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're coming out saying, hey, which religion are you? Or which God do you worship? It's all about just I see, there's this information here. Tell me more about that. There's nothing wrong with digging into that a little bit more.
So I see you've had no customer service experience, but it says you served an LDS mission. Did you, work with people?
Yeah. Yes. I think that's entirely appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one last thing I'll mention here, the other thing I really like about this video interview and also the phone interview at the same time, you really can showcase your culture, right?
Oh,
we've done office tours and we've created videos where people are able to see who we are as a company without even actually talking to us. Mm-hmm. And so it gives us the opportunity to showcase who we are without having to spend the time and going through that with them. We have the opportunity to show them just, hey, ahead of time, this is who we are. and this is how this works, and this is what we're going to do.
Now, if you do phone interviews correctly and you're disrupting your culture, then the end result should be that the candidate is dying to work for you.
There's nowhere else I want to work. I'm not going to apply anywhere else.
They get off that phone call and they say, honey, I have found it. I have to work here. If you're doing that in your phone interviews, with video interviews, and with asking probing questions, and not following a script, and all these things that we've talked about, then I think you're going to be able to find much better talent, and they're going to stick around for a lot longer.
And you can build that pool, right? Like I said, it's not just a right now, right this moment thing. It can be something I'm doing proactively all the time.
Don't forget to subscribe.